Have you ever compared your beats to your favorite producers and thought, man, why do my melodies sound kind of off? Yeah, I can't lie, I used to struggle with this too. I'd come up with a melody that I thought was fire at first, but when I played it back with the rest of the beat, something just felt off, like it wasn't really gluing together. I spent years trying to figure it out, watched a ton of tutorials. I'd made hundreds of beats at this point, and I still just couldn't figure out this thing that was missing, until one day I realized the thing that changed everything for me. And that thing was call and response. Once I started using this technique, my beats felt way more natural, way more professional, and just more exciting. Honestly, it just gave me the confidence to make beats that actually stood out. It helped me land studio sessions with some crazy talented artists, and in general just leveled up my whole sound. So yeah, in this video I'm going to break down exactly what call and response is, why it works, and how you can easily start using it in your beats right now to make them just sound way more professional. So yeah, let's get into it. So when you break it down, call and response is kind of like having a conversation, but instead of talking with words, you're using sounds. Imagine you and your friend are playing a game where you make a noise, like a clap or a whistle, and then they have to respond with a different sound. That kind of back and forth creates a rhythm, and that's kind of like what it's like in music production. The call is the first sound that plays, and then the response is the sound that follows, almost like it's answering back. Yeah, you hear this all the time in hip-hop and trap production. Let's say a producer lays down a nice 808 pattern, that's the call, and then right after a snare or a hi-hat jumps in as a response. It's super simple, but it just makes the beat sound more alive and more exciting. Another example could be in melodies. Maybe a piano plays a short phrase, and then a synth or a melody comes in to reply with a slightly different melody. Yeah, this simple back and forth just makes music feel way more interactive instead of just the same sounds kind of looping over and over. Call and response isn't just in hip-hop though, it's everywhere in music. In reggae, for example, a guitar might play out a call, and then the drums might respond with a simple hit on the snare straight afterwards. In jazz, a trumpet might call out a little riff, and then a saxophone might respond with its own phrase. Even in pop music, singers sometimes do this too. One singer might sing a line, and then backing vocals or an instrument might echo or respond to it. Yeah, this technique is just so powerful because it keeps the listener engaged. And without call and response, beats can just kind of sound, I don't know, just a bit flat and repetitive. So being able to understand and use call and response in your own production is definitely something you're going to benefit from. So as I said, call and response is everywhere in music. If we listen to Gunna's Pushin' P featuring Future and Young Thug, the eerie synth plays a few notes, then the deep 808 slide in response.
Pushin' P. Yeah, Pushin' P.
Yeah, the space in this one between the call, which is the melody, and the response, the 808, just makes the beat feel effortless and wavy, given that kind of like signature Gunna Future bounce. Fast forward to 2024. In Gunna's Back in the A, he utilizes a repeating synth motif as the call, with his vocal line serving as the response.
I got it. Fuck it, I go out the blank. Don't do this shit for the fame. Stacking these Benjamin Franks.
I love this technique because it kind of creates a dialogue between the instrumental and the vocal components of the song. Just adds way more depth to the track, and it just sounds fire, man. So what I'm trying to say is that call and response isn't just one part of a song. It can be used in a ton of different ways. You can have it in just the beat, just the vocals, or even both at the same time. But anyway, enough examples. Let me just show you how you can actually use call and response in your own production. So I made this sample the other day, and I utilized call and response in the top lines in this melody. So this is without the top lines. So it sounds kind of nice by itself, but then when you bring these top lines in, now the key with call and response with top lines is just adding 2 or even 3 or 4 separate sounds that kind of sound different to each other, but still kind of match well together. They don't have to be from strictly the same family of sounds like woodwinds or brass. You can mix and match these as long as they sound good together, then you're pretty much golden. In this example, I did go with 2 of the same sounds. So I started off with this pan flute. This is like a little one shot from the Mellotron expansion pack. Starting off on the root note, we're in E minor, and I'm just using these slide notes right here to just kind of mess with the sound a little bit, pitch bend instead of making them kind of jump from one note to the other. And then just notice how like now we've got all this space to play with. So I could have easily just taken that melody, brought it across, and maybe added some little switch ups in this section. But in my head, I'm like, call and response, I want something else to come in and just kind of bounce off that initial sound. So that's where I came in with this smooth flute right here. Isn't playing for the first bar, but it responds to that pan flute. Just went a little bit crazy with the pattern. And as you can tell, we didn't start on E this time. We started 5 notes down from the root note, which is B. That always sounds real nice, just a little bit of sauce. But yeah, exact same logic, just added some sliding notes and kind of improvised a cool little top line. But yeah, add those 2 both together and we got this. One extra little bit of sauce when you're trying to do call and response with top lines is to mess with the panning of each sound. So what I like to do is pan one sound to the right, one sound to the left. Don't go hard right and hard left. Anywhere between like 25%, 30% is normally a cool like sweet spot that I go to aim for. But yeah, now let's get into another example where the drums are doing the calling and the responding. So we got this little drum pattern. Nice and bouncy, nice and chirpy. So we got some basic call and response going on between the 808 and the clap. You got this low thumpy 808 as the call, the clap is the response. Very simple stuff. Most of you guys should be doing that right now. But then you can deepen this as well by almost adding like 2 calls and a response. So instead of just having the 808 as the call, I added this little snare down here just to kind of like trip over the 808. Just we've also got these open hats down here where we've got 2 separate samples. They sound a little bit different in sound and texture so that when they play, they're kind of like bouncing off each other. First one is a call, second one is a response. Two simple sounds like that just adds even more depth, even more layers. Came in with this reverse one to spice them up a little bit. Really feeds that response open hat that we have playing second. So yeah, once we add them all back together, we've got this nice drum loop, man. There's melodic elements in. And there we go, man. Now let me show you an example of using bass as the call and response. So we've got this kind of like new jazzy style beat going right here. We've actually got 3 808s in this pattern, but we basically have this single 808 pattern on top as the call, and then we have these 2 patterns underneath that both act as the response. So the call sounds like this. Just very simple. And then underneath we have these response 808s. They sound kind of like they're from the same family of sounds, like just that alien-y kind of 808. So we got this secondary 808 filling out this gap. We have this single 808 hitting in this little gap right here. Same thing at the ends. We've got a little gap right here. And these 2 are actually bouncing off of each other right at the end. But yeah, bring those 3 808s together and then we end up with this. Okay, let's ramp things up a little bit. I'm going to give you an example that's a little bit more complex. But again, when I break it down, you should be able to follow along pretty easily. So we've got this beat right here. There's probably like 2 or 3 instances that kind of overlap each other in terms of call and response, but this is kind of like a hybrid. So we've got an 808 that's almost acting as a call. We also have some piano that's acting as a call, and we have some flute that's acting as a response. Same thing for the drums. We've got a snare that's acting as a call, and then a clap that's acting as a response. There's a few things going on here, but let me just isolate these so you can really hear what's going on. So we have this 808 pattern right here. This is basically acting as the call, and then we have this brass element right here, this acting as the response. So you see what I mean? As the 808 hits, it leaves this huge space open for the brass to come in. Another cool thing is that we're altering frequencies. So we've got low frequencies from the bass, and then we got sort of like mid to high mids with the brass. So coupling these 2 totally different frequencies together is a really cool use of call and response too. But it's not just that. We have this piano sample that acts as the call, and the brass can equally act as a response. And then to add even more depth in this second half of the 8 bar, we've got these different sounds that come in, again, just in the gaps, in the pockets. I'll play this all the way through with just those sounds. Flutes come in, different textures. So you can see how you can get really creative with this, just splitting frequencies, using different frequency ranges to kind of use as the call and response. You can just add even more depth, and then you've got room to play within those frequency ranges to add even more call and response, and then you can really go deep with this thing, man. Yeah, lots of fun. So hopefully now you got a bit more of an idea of what call and response is in music production and how you can kind of use it in your own music too. It's such a simple concept, but once you start using it intentionally, it can completely change the way your beats feel. The best producers at the very top use this production technique all the time, and now you know how to use it too. So next time you're cooking up a beat, Think like a storyteller. Let your sounds have a conversation. Just experiment, have fun, and just trust your ears. Like with anything, the more practice you get, the more reps you put in, the better you'll get at making your beats just sound pro and just full of life. And if you're looking to take your music to the next level and just want some extra guidance, then I actually offer one-to-one mentorship where we can work together on your producer goals. So if that sounds like you, then just hit the first link in the description, answer a couple quick questions, and let me know in the comments how you're going to start using color and response in your own music. But that's going to be it from me. Peace.